Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the amazing Rick of Rick's Horror Review Show. Rick, how you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited about this. So excited to rock and roll with you. But before we talk about why you're here, Rick, we want to tell people that don't know you a little bit about you first. You are an aerospace engineer, which is super, super amazing. I have one of my best friends who is actually my kids' godfather. He was in the National Guard. He worked on helicopters, worked on airplanes. Then he came home and he does the same thing. So very, very awesome work that you're doing. Fiddling with aircraft design, making sure they're safe for everything except for commercial aviation. And how did you end up becoming a part of that?
Let's see. I am a nerd. Let's begin. Let's begin there. And it's a pretty easy path forward from there. Nerd check. And then you go into engineering check, and then eventually you wind up being in a field. And obviously aerospace engineering is big in California. I'm in California. I'm in LA, so it's just one of the industries that it's always fascinated me. Obviously, I love aviation. My dad used to work for an airline, so it's sort of always been, I'm saying, my bloodline to work in aerospace. But yeah, I love it. I think it's hilarious. Hilarious. I think it's fun.
No, and that's awesome, man, because like I said, these are the things that you say nerd, I say absolute utmost respect because I know that it's not an easy job. And um it's something I could probably never comprehend or put my grasp around. So nothing but the utmost respect to you and what you guys do. But when the sun sets, you become the host of Rick's Horror Review Show, where your love of horror and humor is only surpassed by your slightly mysterious career choices. So, doing Rick's Horror Review Show, what gave you the inspiration to be like, you know what, this is something I want to do with my life?
I wanted to do something that related to having. Well, first and foremost, let me start with, I love late night talk shows. I love Conan O'Brien, Jimmy Fallon, Letterman, Leno, Johnny Carson. I love all of that stuff, and I've always had a fascination with the talk show. So I thought to myself, well, I could have a talk show about engineering or something like that, but it just didn't really feel like the idea was going anywhere. And then I thought to myself, well, what else do I love? Well, I could talk about airplanes. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. What I really want to talk about is something like that I'm really, really, really passionate about. Not that I'm not passionate about airplanes, but there's something about talking about horror that, frankly, I think just hits a different note. So I
Yeah.
thought to myself, well, why not put together a talk show in the style of a variety show, but make it horror related, and that's what we've done.
And the best thing about this is if you guys haven't heard the show, you don't have to go far to hear it because I have all the links right down in the description. So make sure that you're subscribing to the show. Make sure that you're following Rick on social media as well. So that way you can become a part of his family. So for the people that haven't seen it, can you give us a little bit of an insight on what an episode feels like?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm huge into comedy. And so I'm huge into Saturday Night Live, which I also didn't mention. So to me, what I tend to do is I'll do a review. I'll do the first half of the show or the first half of an episode is like an honest review of what I thought, things that I find interesting about the show or movie, TV show, documentary, no, anything that relates to horror, as I say. And then after I give you my review, I'll go into the improvisation segment, which I do, where I do 100% script accurate dramatizations of the movie or the TV show or the film. I'm kidding. It's not 100% accurate. It's just stuff that pops into my head. I have a weird head, but like when I'm watching a horror movie, my brain just goes into like this mode where something is funny when it probably shouldn't be. And I just do that. I improvise those moments in my head and I have some notes and I think about this scene and I replay the scene the way that I would do it if I was the character in that movie.
Mhm. And it's awesome because like I said, the imagination to be able to do stuff like that and to be able to run with something like that is absolutely incredible. So make sure you guys are checking the show out. But in the meantime, Rick, in order for you to have a talk show, doing the review show about horror, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now, my friend, I would like to go back to the past and talk about what it was that got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Rick, your first horror movie was.
My first full horror movie was the Blair Witch Project.
And as of filming, this episode will be released obviously a little bit after we film, but they did just announce a new Blair Witch
I
that's
saw
going to be
that. Yes. Yes.
so. Trust me, we'll be diving really deep into that here in a little bit. But do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
11. I was 11 years
Very,
old the first time I saw it. I was 11
very,
years old.
very young to see a movie of this magnitude for the first time, especially because when we were young, we thought this shit was real. Like,
Tell me about it. I mean, I like to say that was my first horror movie. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I mentioned to you briefly. The first time I got a glimpse of like a real horror movie where it wasn't like somebody else was playing a horror movie in their house, or my sister was watching a horror movie, was like me grabbing a movie by the name of Faces of Death, which, by the way, I don't recommend anybody watch. It was like my dad had this stashed away somewhere, and I put that on for like a few minutes. I couldn't watch. The first full horror movie was this. Why? I don't know. I was just attracted to how real it looked. Like you said, when we were kids, it just looked real, you know?
yeah. Do you remember who you were with when you watched it the first time?
Yeah, I was with my school friend of mine because it wasn't actually my idea to watch the movie. His older brother came home with like a DVD or VHS that's I don't remember exactly what it was at the time, and he's like, "Hey guys, we're gonna watch the Blair Witch." I knew what the Blair Witch watch. You know, I
Right.
just I certainly nobody took me to watch it in the theater, so I had to watch it, at their house. So I was over at their house. We were playing like Nintendo 64, whatever the case was, and then he brings this movie, and of course the rest is history.
Dude, you're making me feel nostalgic right now. I could throw on some Mario Kart or Star Fox 64. Go
Yes,
get some.
we were probably playing Mario Kart or Perfect Dark, probably, or something along those lines.
Yes, man. Go to
Yeah.
Pizza Hut, grab a stuffed crust pizza, come
Oh,
back like a horror
love crust
movie.
pizza.
Like, God, man. Like, this just sounds,
Do they
God.
still make that, by the way? Oh, stuffed crust
I,
pizza.
I don't even have a Pizza Hut in my area anymore, so I couldn't tell you. But
Oh man,
yeah,
yeah,
it's really cool to hear how this all happened. And that's why I love doing this, to rewind back to how we felt when we watched this for the first time. And,
yeah.
especially this movie, it's very effective, especially when we were young and the marketing was so perfect for this movie. But do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
At the time, yes. And now I have two. At the time, it was the ending. Of course, it was. If spoilers, right? I mean, this is like a 20-something-year
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
But at the time, the final scene when Mike's standing in the corner and Heather's just going bananas at the fact that she can't find Josh. So they hear Josh, now she can't find Mike, and she finally finds Mike, and then scene over. You never actually see anything, right? But it's just this psychological thing where you're like, everybody saw something out of the corner of their eye, right? Even though I've seen this movie now several times, and there's nothing there that I can tell that's actually there to haunt you or in
Right.
the corner somewhere. I don't think there is, but it was that scene. But now I rewatched it recently. It's the scene where Heather is apologizing. It's so heartfelt. And now as an adult, I'm like, man, this girl really feels bad about her stuff, And like as an adult, like she's taking responsibility, which is really nice to see. But it was so late in the movie, right? And she's just got nothing else left other than to say sorry to her parents, sorry to Mike's parents, sorry to Josh's parents, and just sorry in general. It was tough. It's a tough watch.
Yeah. One of the scenes that helped spark Scary Movie right there. Like
Yeah.
it's a great scene, very scary scene, but it was very easy. It's been parodied thousands of times.
Yeah.
I do got to know because it is available on YouTube. It is available on the DVD. Have you seen the alternate endings to the film?
I've not purposely. I have
Right.
not seen it purposely. And the reason why I haven't is just because, again, it has this, it's captured my imagination in such a way that I don't want to see the alternate ending. And I've been curious about it sometimes. And I'm like, being really close. Oh, I should watch it. But no, it's just, it has such a special place in my heart because of what happened immediately after I finished watching that movie. If you'd like to hear what happened.
Yes, I
um,
absolutely would.
so I was watching it at a friend's house, right? Like I mentioned, and you imagine at that point, it's way too late for an 11-year-old. I'm already going to be in trouble, by the way. So now I got a bike home, and the bike home is, it's dark. There's a lot of foliage. It's not exactly the most pleasant bike home under normal circumstances because I'm out past my my curfew at this point. But now I have to deal with the immediate threat of the Blair Witch chasing me, or little piles of rocks or stick figures coming out somewhere where they shouldn't be. So I've never biked harder in my life, and yeah, it was I survived, obviously, barely.
Right. Get home covered in sweat. The Blair Witch is out
Oh
there.
my goodness. Yeah, Mom, I rushed here. I knew I was late. I'm so sorry. I came here as
Trust
fast
me,
as I
I've
could.
punished myself enough. You don't have to punish me.
Yes, exactly.
But I do want to say for people that do want to check it out, I have all the alternate endings down in the description as well. I do feel like the movie went with the best ending, but some of them are batshit crazy to watch. So if you guys is so inclined to check them out, those are down in the description because I feel like they are fun to watch. Um, Now we know which scene affected you the most, Rick. And now, obviously, like I said, very effective movie. A lot of people do call it a slow burn, but it's still very effective. Do you know which scene was your favorite from the film?
I think probably from what I remember, like because it felt so real, right? Because these characters, these were not like you. I don't know the sense of reality that this movie gave you, obviously as a young audience, but also a different time. Really, the internet was in its infancy, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't where you just go on IMDb and just like find out who these actors are and like what they've been in before. The scenes where she's got like I think 18 millimeter camera. She's interviewing people from the town of Burkittsville. Each one of those stories to me was so profoundly true. Like I believed them,
Right.
when I recently saw it, I'm like, oh my God, like I still believe that these people live in this town. And I love the fact that I can get immersed even today in this story that is now 25 years old, something like that. So I
Yeah.
still love those scenes. It's more than one. She interviews a bunch of different people, a woman and her daughter, and then there's a couple of dudes fishing, and she's like, one of the dudes is like, oh, you damn kids again with the coming home.
Right.
It's just so funny to me, but so real. Like those guys were actually fishing that day.
Right. Right. And they're getting annoyed by this person
Yeah,
coming
by
to
these
talk to
damn children these days. It was epic. I love it.
them. Right. Well, I gotta ask because the Blair Witch technically is a trilogy now, as of the time of
Mm-hmm.
filming. You have the Blair Witch, the Book of Shadows, and then the Blair Witch sequel, which came out in 2016. Of the three, which one would be your favorite?
Well, hands down, the Blair Witch Project, no question.
Yeah.
The Book of Shadows, yeah, I think it tried to be more conventional with its approach to storytelling.
I
It
am not
took
a
away
fan.
everything. Yeah, it took away
Not a
everything of the Blair
fan
Witch.
at all. I mean, look, I'm glad there's an audience for it. Like I said,
Of
I
course,
would never root against art being made. God, I hate that fucking movie. Like, it is not for me. Again, I hope there's an audience. I have very, very good friends that love this movie, and I'm glad.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad that someone created art and somebody I know and love appreciates it. I
it's
don't.
something
It is
for
not for
everybody,
me.
right? If you
Right.
like it, great. I did not. Good for
But
you.
on the flip side,
Yeah.
I thought 2016 was a banger, and not a lot of people like that one. So
I liked it. I think it's definitely not my favorite Blair Witch, obviously, but I really
right.
enjoyed it too. It's definitely a close second, far closer than Book of Shadows will ever be.
Yeah.
And
Well,
maybe
and
this
that
one,
kind of
hopefully this new one that comes out, gets up there. It's close. Is in that I can even call it found footage. Yeah, it's definitely found footage, right? It's
oh,
the found
absolutely.
footage, right?
Absolutely.
I
And
hope it's
that was
that.
actually my next question because I always ask people, would you like to see your first horror movie remade today? Now, we don't know at the time of filming, guys. We don't have anything specific about this. All we know is Blumhouse picked up the rights. Um, so they are making a new Blair Witch. We don't know if this is a hard remake, if this is a soft reboot, if this is somehow a sequel that is attached, if it's something even in the same universe. We don't know yet. But are you excited for this new variation of the Blair Witch that we're going to be getting from Blumhouse?
I very rarely am excited about sequels to horror movies. I don't like it personally. You can like it if you like it. But for this one, I'm definitely excited because it's for my favorite movie. And I just hope that they do it justice and they do something spectacular, but, stays true to the formula that the first one brought to the table.
Sure. And that's my thing. I just entertain me. That's
Sure.
all I'm asking. Just
That's all it
entertain me.
is.
So,
Of course.
um, we know how horror started for you with the Blair Witch Project, and obviously that
Yeah.
movie means a whole lot to you. And it means a lot to a lot of us. But here for a second, I do want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you.
Ooh.
My little buddy Ghostface is here,
Uh-oh.
and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Rick?
Oh,
Uh,
Jesus.
what
And a
is your
heart attack
favorite
every
horror
friend.
movie of all
Um,
time?
okay, here's the curveball answer. It's the Terminator.
Yes,
The Terminator,
yes.
right? Come on.
It's a slasher. I will go as
Sure.
far to. I think he goes through the phone book looking for every Sarah Connor to wipe them out. Like this is a total slasher film to me. He wears a mask to cover his real
Hmm.
identity. Um. Oh well, slashers don't use guns. Billy and Stu used a gun. You can tell me the Scream isn't a slasher?
Yes, semantics.
Yeah.
You know, picking and choosing your weapon of
It-
choice there at this point. Oh, it's definitely, you're right, slasher.
right. To me, total slasher. Love this film. Um. It's it's just it's so good. Like it's such a good movie, man. And I love the fact that you classify it as not just horror, but your favorite horror movie because this movie is so damn dope, man.
Well, I mean, you know, horror is subjective, right? Just like comedy. What scares you might not necessarily be what scares me. But the thought of a cyborg from the future that looks like an endoskeleton like that on inside and it's chasing you to kill you, that doesn't scare you? Because that scares the bejesus out of me. And I was like, I can't think of that. In fact, that movie gave me nightmares just looking at like the final scene of like, you know, the Terminator's model is like it's going after Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, and it's just like, oh my god, I can't do this. So
Yeah. One of the best villains of all time. You know, the
mm.
T-800.
Mm-hmm.
T-1000 is pretty fucking scary from Judgment Day. But there's just
Yeah.
something about the T-800 and Terminator when he, like you said, once the skin's burned off and he's just that exoskeleton that's coming after him.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something about that that is so scary. So, um, I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but make sure that you are following Rick on social media. Make sure you are subscribing to the Horror Review Show. But before I let you go, Rick, we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to the Blair Witch Project. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. What we're doing here is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Rick, what would your ranking of the Blair Witch Project be?
The Blair Witch Project gets 5 skulls for me. 5.
I figured as much, man. Um,
No question. 5.
yeah, and it's just one of those movies that really affected all of us. It really did. Like it was a scary movie. It seemed so real. It didn't seem like it was a movie that was Hollywood made at the
Right.
time. You know, the marketing was perfect. It was such a good movie and came out at just the right time. So, I do want to thank you guys for watching. Rick, please don't go anywhere, my friend. I have a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.